Hey everyone, Sheree here and happy December to you. I do apologise for the background noise. It's quite warm here on the Gold Coast, so our air conditioner's on. So I do apologise for that background noise of the air conditioner and the fans. Today I am starting work on day one in my December album. I'm working with the beautiful Felicity Jane Bella Kit, and I do have a few things organised here already to show you before I get right into it. So I'm going to be using one of the cardstock divider pages, the one with the cutout star, and I'm going to use that to create a backing. So I'm going to use that to trace onto the back of this spots paper. This is also from the Bella Kit, so that I've got a backing on that page. My plan is to have a shaker pocket in between. So I've got two pieces of acetate here, and what I did was took one piece, put it over the top of the star, and I used double-sided tape just to go around the edge of the star so that I knew where the adhesive needed to be. Then I have stuck I only took the backing pieces off the bottom half of the star. These pieces still have the backing on that double-sided tape, which I haven't taken off yet. So I just took the bottom pieces off, stuck the two pieces of acetate together, and then what I did, I used a paintbrush just to make a gap down both of those points of the stars, and then I tipped in some white glitter. It's quite coarse, this glitter. Just tipped it inside, and now I've got that glittery shaky goodness in there, and I can now seal that up, and that's going to go in between my two pages. So I'll have just a little touch of sparkle there, and I'm planning on putting my number one on top of that. So before I do all of that, I'm going to cut the star out of the middle of my red piece of paper, and I'm actually going to use a paper piercer to go right around the outside of each star on both pages, and I'm going to stitch around each of the stars. I've got this gold embroidery thread that I'm going to use on the front. On the back, I'm not sure if I'll use the gold or white. I haven't decided on that yet, but we'll see as we go. I do have a full page size photo to use for this particular day. It's about putting up our Christmas tree. In past years, I've always done a full-size photo of the Christmas tree, but it looks very similar to previous years. So this year I decided to go on a close-up of our ornament box, just for something a little different. So we had our lights on the tree already, we were about to start decorating, so I just had my camera above the ornament box and took a photo straight down. And I really like how that's turned out. So what I'm planning on for this, so that I can still have a full-size photo of the Christmas tree, I'm going to use my craft knife and make a little slit down the side there, and I'm going to make a pull-out so that this will then pull out from behind that ornament box. So I've got one of the labels there from the die cut pack. I'm going to put these, my journaling and the photo, back to back, and I'll have that label there so that you can see that there's something to pull out from there. I'm thinking of adding a few decorations just down the bottom here, some die cuts. I've got that tree die cut, which I think will look great, and it's appropriate because this is about our tree. And I've also got a couple of stamps picked out to use from the Bella stamp set. So I do also need to figure out something for the back of my one, because as you turn the page, with this being clear, you're going to see the back of my number one there. So I have an idea of what I'm going to do for that as well. All right, I think I'm ready to make a start, so I'll get right into it. Okay, so to start off with, I'm going to use the cardstock divider page to trace the star on the back of that red pattern paper. So just making my way around with a pencil, and I'm also marking where the holes are down the side as well. So now, using my metal ruler and a craft knife, I'm just going to make my way around that traced star to cut it out. And now I have two pages with the stars on it. I'm using a paper piercer to pierce some stitching holes around each star, and I'm just hand stitching with some gold embroidery thread on each of those. So those pages are now done, nicely stitched around each one. And I'm now going to create my shaker page. So I'm working my way around the back of the stitching there with some double-sided tape, and that's going to allow me to add the shaker star in between the two star pages. I'm just sealing up my star now, the acetate star. Alright, so that is done, and now I'm going to just peel away some of the backing pieces from that double-sided tape so that I can line up the shaker star with the star page. So you can see me doing that now. So I'm just sticking down the very top of the star, then I'm going to flip it over, get rid of some of that excess acetate because I do want to stitch around the edge of this page shortly, so I don't want too much bulk there, and then I can go ahead and stick the rest of that star down. So now that the first side's done, I can do the same with the second star page, which is going to be the backing. So I'm working my way around with double-sided tape just like I did with the first one. I'm going to stick down the top half of the star first so that I can line those two pages up nicely. And when I'm happy with that, I'm going to stick the rest down. So there is a little bit of overhang, but I can trim that away a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and stick the rest of that page down. Sticking down the edges of the page as well. Okay. So here you can see I'm just using my scissors to trim away that excess off the side there, and I'm also punching the holes down the side as well using a hole punch. Okay, this is where I'm just adding a stitch border right around the outside edge of the page, just in white thread, and now I can go ahead and add my embellishments. So before I stick my chipboard number down, I do want to create the backing for that number 1 that you're going to see on the other side of the acetate star. So I've got a solid piece of green paper here from the paper pack, and I'm going to stamp the Fa La La stamp right in the center there. So I'm just getting myself organized here with some scrap paper. I'm going to use white embossing powder and my Versamark ink pad. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that roughly in the center of that green piece of paper, sprinkle my white embossing powder over the top, tap it off, and that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and start heating that with my heat gun. Now, once I started, I did notice there was a bit of excess powder at the top, which I should have brushed away before I started with my heat gun. So you can see me here grabbing a paintbrush just to try and get rid of any that wasn't already melted. There was still a little bit left, but most of that is going to be trimmed away anyway, so I wasn't too worried about it. I'm going to go ahead and finish off that heat gun there and melt it, and I'm really happy with how this white really pops against that dark green paper. So that is now done. What I'm going to do now is add my chipboard number. I'm just going to hold it in place. I did hold it up to the light to make sure the Fa La La was roughly centered on the back of that number 1, just tracing around it with a pencil, and then I can go ahead and cut that out with my scissors, and that will be then ready to use. So now I'm going to go ahead and add that chipboard one to the very front of that star shaker page, and I'm also going to add that holly die cut to the side of that number 1. Just sticking that on with a bit of strong double-sided tape. Now on the reverse, I've got my back to front green number 1 with the Fa La La stamped on it, lining that up so that you can't see through. And then where I've got that holly, I'm just going to add a gold foil star to the side there. So you can still see the holly through that star, but the gold foil star is sort of covering that. And with all that glitter inside the shaker star, it really does help to disguise it there. So sticking that star on the side, and that is my shaker page done, and I'm really happy with how this has turned out. So now that this page is done, I can go ahead and start work on my full-size photo page. Okay, so I'm going to start off by doing a little bit of stamping. I've got the Days Until Christmas stamp from the Bella stamp set, along with the phrase that says today's story details. So I'm stamping each of these twice, just so that I make sure I get the best image to use. Now this one here was a little bit wonky on the end, so you can see I'm just fixing that up on my clear block, and the second one turns out really well. So I'm going to use my scissors to cut those out, and then I did decide to do a little bit more stamping as well. You'll see very shortly that I decided to stamp the phrase Season of Wonder to the top of my journaling. So my journaling is sized to 3 by 4 inches, and so is that photo of our finished Christmas tree as well. I just added the today's story details to that green tab die cut and added that to the top of my journaling, and now I'm going to just stitch around the edge of that before adding my photo to the back. So now my journaling is ready to go into its little pocket. So what I need to do is create that little slit down the side of the ornament box in my photo. So I'm just roughly working out how long I'll need to cut this slit. So I've got my metal ruler and my craft knife, and I'm just going to very carefully cut down the very edge of that ornament box. So I did do a little test and it wasn't quite wide enough, so I'm going to go back in and just make the slit a little bit longer on each end. And now that's going to fit nicely. Okay, and so that I don't lose my journaling inside the page, I'm going to flip this over and add some double-sided tape right around the edge of where that photo is sitting on the back there, so that when I add the page for my next day, it's going to seal that nicely and create a little pocket so that the journaling doesn't disappear inside. Alright, all I'm going to do now is add a little embellishment cluster down the bottom right corner here. I've got the die cut Christmas tree, that Days Until Christmas stamped piece. I do still need to circle the number on that as well. I must remember to do that. And then I've also got a little candy cane die cut that I'm going to just tuck in down the bottom. I do apologize, it's a little bit off camera, but you'll see it shortly. And I'm also going to add one of those little gold foil stars there as well, just for another little pop of gold. And I also decided to add a number 1 to this page as well. So I've got some Essentials puffy alphabet stickers here that has a number 1 that I'm just going to add to the very center of that tree. I need to punch the holes down the side of my photo, so I'm doing that now, and then these pages are ready to add into my album. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing how I've created these pages today. Let me know if you've got any questions about this one. Just pop it down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But thank you for joining me. I look forward to sharing more with you soon, and have a great day.